The Outcast's Dawn. The twin moons of Zetheria cast their pale blue light across the crystalline spires of the ancestral city, where Marina Kveth stood before the council of elders, her silver-scaled skin reflecting the ceremonial flames. She held her head high, despite the weight of their judgment pressing down upon her like a physical force. "You persist in these dangerous delusions," Elder Crotha's voice boomed through the chamber. "These dreams of yours speak of forbidden knowledge. The Sky People are myths, nothing more." Marina's hands clenched at her sides, but her voice remained steady. "What I see in my dreams is real. The humans were here before us. Their ruins still stand in the forbidden valleys. Their knowledge could save us from the great dying that plagues our crops and waters." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even mentioning the humans was taboo, but speaking of visiting their supposed ruins was heresy of the highest order. Around her stood 5 others, fellow dreamwalkers who shared her visions, who saw the truth that their people denied. "Enough." Elder Croth stood, his ceremonial robes shimmering with embedded crystals. "You and your followers have corrupted our youth with these tales long enough. The council has reached its decision." Marina felt her heart pound against her ribs, but she refused to show fear. The other dreamwalkers moved closer to her, united in their defiance. "Marina Kveth, you and your accomplices are hereby exiled from the ancestral city and all tribal lands. You will be stripped of your clan markings and cast into the forbidden valleys. If you return, your lives are forfeit." The sentence was harsh but not unexpected. Marina had known the price of speaking truth to power. As the guards moved to escort them out, she caught sight of her younger sister, Lyra, watching from the shadows with tears in her eyes. The exile ceremony was quick and brutal. Their clan markings, the luminescent patterns that all Zetharians wore with pride, were ceremonially washed away with sacred oils. Their names were struck from the tribal records, and they were given only the most basic supplies for survival. As they were marched toward the valley gates, Marina spoke quietly to her fellow outcasts. "Remember what we've seen in our dreams. The humans left something behind in these valleys, something that could change everything. We're not just exiles now. We're explorers." Beside her, Torin, a former scholar whose dreams had cost him his position in the archives, nodded grimly. "The dreams have grown stronger as we've gotten closer to the valleys. Whatever's out there, it's calling to us." The gates opened with a grinding sound that echoed off the valley walls. Beyond lay a landscape that no Zetharian had officially entered in generations, a maze of twisted rock formations and deep crevices, all bathed in the ethereal light of the twin moons. As soon as the gates closed behind them, Marina pulled out a small device she'd managed to conceal, a compass-like instrument she'd constructed based on her dreams. Its crystal face glowed with a faint blue light, pointing deeper into the valleys. "We head east," she announced. "The dreams have shown me a path through the crystal caves. There's something waiting for us there, something the humans left behind." The group moved carefully through the treacherous terrain. The valleys were said to be haunted by the ghosts of the Sky People, but Marina knew better. The real dangers were far more mundane: unstable ground, toxic gas vents, and the occasional predator adapted to this harsh environment. As they walked, the dreams became more vivid. Marina saw flashes of massive machines, of humans in strange suits working to reshape the very planet itself. She saw their hopes, their fears, and ultimately, their decision to leave something behind, something that could save this world when the time was right. After hours of careful progress, they reached a massive cliff face that seemed to glow from within. Torin pressed his hand against the rock, his eyes wide. "It's warm. And these patterns, they're not natural." Marina nodded, her heart racing. "This is it. In my dreams, this entire cliff is hollow. The humans built something inside it, something they called Project Genesis." She ran her hands along the rock face until she found what she was looking for, a small depression that matched the shape of her compass. As she pressed the device into the slot, the cliff face began to hum with energy. Lines of light spread out from the point of contact, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with power. The rock itself seemed to shift and flow, revealing a doorway that had been hidden for centuries. Cool air rushed out of the opening, carrying with it the scent of metal and electricity, scents that Marina had only experienced in her dreams. Inside, lights began to flicker to life, illuminating a corridor that stretched deep into the cliff. "This is what we were meant to find," Marina said, her voice filled with wonder and determination. "This is why we were given these dreams. The humans didn't abandon this world, they left us a key to its salvation. And now it's up to us to use it." As they stepped into the facility, none of them noticed the small drone that detached itself from the cliff face, transmitting their arrival to systems that had waited countless years for this exact moment. Deep within the facility, ancient machines began to wake, and a single stasis pod began its revival sequence. The first step of Project Genesis was finally underway. The Hidden Legacy. The ancient human facility hummed with awakening power as Marina and her fellow outcasts ventured deeper into its corridors. Their scaled skin reflected the soft blue emergency lighting that guided their way, creating an ethereal dance of light and shadow. Torin ran his fingers along the smooth metal walls, his scholar's mind trying to decipher the strange symbols etched into their surface. "These markings," he murmured, "they're exactly like the ones from our dreams. But seeing them in person." His voice trailed off as they entered a vast circular chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly upward into the cliff. The chamber was dominated by a massive holographic display that flickered to life as they entered, filling the air with swirling images of their planet's past. Marina watched in awe as the history they'd only glimpsed in dreams played out before them, humans working alongside massive machines, reshaping the landscape, seeding the clouds with crystalline formations that would eventually become their people's sacred spires. "By the moons," whispered Kira, the youngest of their group. The dreams were real. All of it was real. Before Marina could respond, a new sound filled the chamber, the distinctive hiss of hydraulics and the crackle of energy. At the far end of the room, a section of wall slid away to reveal a row of stasis pods, their frosted surfaces beginning to clear. "Everyone, stay back," Marina ordered, moving cautiously toward the pods. Most were empty or damaged, their contents long since lost to time. But one remained intact, its surface clearing to reveal a human figure within. The pod systems beeped rapidly as the revival sequence completed. With a soft whoosh, the cover slid open, releasing a cloud of cryovapor. The figure inside began to move, and Marina found herself face to face with something she'd only seen in dreams, a living human. Commander James Wright's first breath in 300 years was more painful than he'd expected. His muscles screamed in protest as he tried to sit up, his augmented eyes struggling to focus on the alien figures before him. They weren't quite what his team had predicted, the genetic modifications had produced some unexpected results over the generations. "Well," he managed to croak, his voice rough from centuries of disuse, "looks like Project Genesis worked better than we hoped." He switched to the ancient Zetharian dialect his team had developed, the language that had evolved into the modern tongue these beings now spoke. "I am Commander James Wright. And you must be the ones we've been waiting for." Marina stepped forward, her heart pounding. The human's words confirmed everything she'd seen in her dreams. "I am Marina Kveth. We've seen you in our dreams. You and your people. The others call them delusions, but..." Wright nodded, carefully standing with the help of his pod support system. "Not delusions. Genetic memory. When we realized we couldn't stay, we encoded specific memories into the genetic structure of your ancestors. We needed to make sure that when the time came, someone would find their way back here." "Back here for what?" Torin asked, his scholar's curiosity overcoming his initial fear. Before Wright could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights pulsed along the corridors, and the holographic display shifted to show multiple approaching figures. "Tribal hunters," Kira gasped, recognizing the distinctive signatures of their former people's tracking parties. They must have followed us. Wright's expression hardened as he checked the facility's systems through his neural interface. They're not the only problem. The planetary stabilization grid is failing. That's why you're having crop failures, why your waters are dying. We built this facility to maintain the terraforming processes that make this world habitable, but after 3 centuries. Marina's mind raced as she processed this information. The Great Dying, it's not a curse or a natural cycle. It's your technology breaking down. Yes, Wright confirmed, moving to a control panel. And if we don't restart the maintenance protocols soon, this entire planet will begin to revert to its original state. Uninhabitable. The sound of weapons fire echoed from the outer corridors. The tribal hunters were getting closer, no doubt intent on capturing or killing the heretics who had dared to enter the Forbidden Valleys. We need to seal the inner chambers, Wright announced, his fingers dancing over the controls. But first. He pressed a sequence of buttons, and hidden panels in the walls slid open to reveal an arsenal of advanced human weaponry. I'm not about to let your people's prejudices doom this entire world. These weapons are non-lethal, but they'll give us the edge we need. Marina stared at the weapons, then at her fellow outcasts. They had already lost everything by believing in their dreams. Now those dreams stood validated before them, offering a chance not just to prove themselves right, but to save their entire world. Teach us, she said firmly. Teach us everything. About the weapons, about this facility, about what's really happening to our world. We'll hold off the hunters while you work on the stabilization grid. Wright smiled, seeing in these exiles the same determination that had driven his own people to reach for the stars. Your genetic memory didn't just pass down information, he said, handing her a weapon. It passed down humanity's greatest strength, the refusal to accept defeat. As the tribal hunters breached the outer defenses, Marina and her fellow outcasts took up positions around the chamber. They were no longer just exiles searching for truth. They were the guardians of their world's future, armed with the legacy of humanity and the determination to use it wisely. The real test of Project Genesis was about to begin. Knowledge is power. The clash between tribal hunters and Marina's group ended not with violence, but with stunned silence. The hunters, led by Chief Warrior Vextor, stood frozen in the chamber's entrance, their weapons lowered as they stared at the holographic displays showing their world's true history. Behind them, Marina and her fellow outcasts maintained their defensive positions, human weapons humming with contained energy. Commander Wright's voice cut through the tension. Your ancestors called us the Sky People, he said in perfect Cytherian, stepping forward despite Marina's protective gesture. They watched us reshape your world from a toxic wasteland into a paradise. And now that paradise is dying because you've forgotten how to maintain it. Vextor, his ceremonial armor gleaming in the facility's light, stepped forward. Unlike the other hunters, his expression showed not fear but calculation. You speak of legends, he said carefully, yet you stand here, a legend made flesh. Why now? Why reveal yourself after so many generations of silence? Because now is when we're needed, Wright responded, bringing up a new holographic display. It showed the planet's core, surrounded by a complex network of energy fields that were clearly deteriorating. Your people were meant to be our successors, not our worshippers. The genetic memories we left behind weren't meant to create outcasts, they were meant to guide you back to this knowledge when the time came. Marina moved to stand beside Wright, her weapon lowered but ready. Show them, she urged. Show them what I saw in my dreams. Show them why the Great Dying isn't a curse, but a failure of technology they never knew existed. The chamber's lights dimmed as Wright activated the facility's main historical archive. The air filled with images of the past, humans in environmental suits walking through toxic wastelands, massive machines seeding the atmosphere with life-giving particles, the first primitive bacteria taking hold in treated soil. Then came the more recent history, the decision to modify some of the indigenous life forms with human genetic material, creating what would become the Zetherian people. Your people were our greatest achievement, Wright explained, his voice filled with pride and regret. But we knew we couldn't stay. Earth needed us, and we couldn't maintain colonies across multiple worlds. So we left behind everything you'd need, the facilities, the knowledge encoded in your genes, the automated systems to maintain the terraforming. But somewhere along the way, fear replaced curiosity. The very knowledge that could save you became forbidden. One of the younger hunters stepped forward, lowering his hood to reveal features startlingly similar to Marina's. It was her brother, Kale. The dreams, he said hesitantly. I've had them too. But I was afraid to speak of them. Vextor's head snapped around. You dare admit to such heresy? It's not heresy, Torin interjected, his scholar's training evident in his measured tone. It's inheritance. Look at these symbols, these machines. They match perfectly with what we've seen in our dreams. This isn't about belief, it's about evidence. Wright nodded approvingly. Your people have a choice now, he said, bringing up new displays showing the deteriorating conditions across the planet. In less than one planetary cycle, the terraforming grid will fail completely. When that happens, the atmosphere will begin to revert. The crops aren't failing because of curses, they're failing because the soil enrichment systems are shutting down. The waters aren't dying because of angry spirits, they're dying because the chemical balance maintainers are running out of power. Marina watched as the truth sank in among the hunters. She could see the moment when denial gave way to understanding, when generations of superstition crumbled in the face of reality. But she also saw the fear of change, fear of acknowledging that everything they believed was wrong. We can teach you, she offered, extending her hand to her brother. All of us with the dreams, we're not cursed. We're chosen. Chosen to bridge the gap between what we were and what we could be. Kale took a step toward her, but Vextor's arm shot out, blocking his path. The council must be consulted, the warrior chief declared. This is too important for rash decisions. The council? Wright's laugh was sharp. The same council that exiled these people for speaking the truth. The same council that would rather watch your world die than admit they were wrong. He turned to the main console, bringing up a countdown timer. You have 14 days before the grid fails completely. Consult all you want, but nature won't wait for political debates. Marina felt a shift in the room's energy as the hunters processed this information. She recognized the look in their eyes, the same mix of fear and fascination she'd felt when her dreams first started. But there was something else there now, hope. We don't all have to wait for the council, Kale said suddenly, removing his ceremonial armor. 3 other hunters followed suit, stepping away from Vextor to stand with Marina's group. Teach us. Teach us everything. When the council sees what we can learn, what we can do. Vextor's face darkened. This is treason. No, Marina countered, this is survival. This is evolution. This is what humanity left us, not just technology, but courage. The courage to question, to learn, to change. Wright smiled, seeing in these moments the fruition of plans laid centuries ago. Shall we begin? He asked, gesturing to the facility's vast database of knowledge. We have 14 days to save a world. And everyone who stays will need to learn quickly. Vextor looked from his depleted group of hunters to the growing band of learners, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, I will tell the council what we've found. What happens next? He paused, looking at the displays showing their dying world. What happens next will depend on whether wisdom or tradition prove stronger. As the warrior chief departed with his remaining loyal hunters, Wright began activating the facility's teaching protocols. Holographic interfaces sprang to life around each person, adapting to their natural learning patterns that had been encoded in their genes generations ago. Welcome, Wright said, to humanity's legacy. Let's see what you can do with it. The real education was about to begin, and with it, the race to save their world. United we stand. 7 days into their crash course in human technology, the facility's alarms blared to life. Marina looked up from the neural interface where she'd been studying atmospheric stabilization protocols, her silver scales reflecting the pulsing red emergency lights. Commander Wright was already at the main console, his augmented eyes scanning rapidly through streams of data. "It's happening faster than we predicted," he announced, his voice tight with concern. "The southern continental plate is showing signs of critical instability. The terraforming grid's failure is accelerating the planet's natural tectonic processes." Torin rushed to join them, his scholar's mind now enhanced with a deep understanding of Earth's geological sciences. "The crystalline formations," he said, pointing to a particular data stream. "They're not just decorative or sacred as we believed, they're stabilization nodes. And they're shutting down one by one." Marina felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper on her shoulders. In the past week, their numbers had grown as more tribal members with genetic memories had defied the Council to join them. The facility now hummed with activity as dozens of Zetharians worked to absorb centuries of human knowledge. But time was running out. "The Council has made its decision," Kale announced, rushing into the chamber. His once ceremonial armor was now integrated with human tech, allowing him to serve as their eyes and ears in the ancestral city. "They're mobilizing the entire tribe. But not to help us, to stop us." Marina's heart sank. "They still think we're the threat?" "No," Kale's expression was grim. "They believe destroying this facility and everything in it will somehow restore the natural order. Elder Croth has convinced them that our world's suffering is punishment for allowing human corruption to persist." Commander Wright's laugh was without humor. "Destroying this facility would accelerate the process. Without the mainframe to coordinate what's left of the grid." He didn't need to finish the thought. They all knew what would happen. A new alert flashed across the screens: massive seismic activity near the ancestral city. The ground itself was beginning to break apart as ancient terraforming engines, buried deep beneath the surface, failed one by one. "We're out of time," Marina declared, accessing the facility's communication systems. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Show them what's happening. Show them the truth." The facility's external projectors activated, throwing massive holograms into the sky above the valleys. Every Zetharian for miles could see the real-time data: their planet's deteriorating core, the failing stabilization grid, the countdown to total system collapse. But more importantly, they could see the solution. "We need everyone," Wright explained, his voice echoing across the landscape. "The grid can be restarted, but it requires a synchronized activation from multiple nodes. The humans designed it this way as a failsafe. No single group could control the entire system." Marina stepped forward, her voice joining Wright's in the broadcast. "This was never about outcasts or elders, dreams or traditions. This was about all of us. Together. The humans left us their knowledge because they believed in us, all of us. They believed we could be more than just survivors on a terraformed world. They believed we could be its guardians." The ground shook violently, and in the distance, one of the sacred crystal spires cracked and began to topple. The sight of their ancient monument falling seemed to break through centuries of prejudice and fear. The Council's warriors, assembled for attack, instead rushed to help evacuate the citizens near the falling spire. "Marina!" Kira called out from her station. "I'm detecting movement, massive movement. The entire city, they're coming this way." Indeed, through the facility's sensors, they could see them, not just warriors, but thousands of Zetharians. Elders walked alongside children, scholars beside workers. Even Elder Croth was among them, his face a mask of conflicting emotions as he led his people toward the human facility. "They're not coming to fight," Torin observed, wonder in his voice. "They're coming to help. Commander Wright quickly began allocating tasks through the facility's systems. As each Cytherian arrived, they received targeted information packets, simplified but essential knowledge about their role in the grid's reactivation. Those with active genetic memories helped translate and guide the others. The grid requires simultaneous activation from 7 points, Wright explained to the assembled crowd. Each point needs exactly 100 people to manage the power flow. Too few, and the grid won't activate. Too many, and it could overload. Marina found herself working alongside Elder Croft himself, teaching him how to interface with human technology. The old leader's hands shook as he touched the control panel. "All my life," he said quietly, "I thought I was protecting our people by keeping them from this knowledge. I never imagined." "You did what you thought was right," Marina replied, helping him calibrate the interface. "But now you're doing something even more right, you're helping us change." The countdown reached its final minutes. 7 teams of exactly 100 Cytherians each were in position at key points throughout the region. The sacred crystals, now revealed as crucial technological artifacts, hummed with awakening power. "On my mark," Wright's voice rang out across all channels. "Remember, the surge will feel strange, but don't break contact. Your genetic modifications were designed for exactly this moment." Marina stood at her station, surrounded by her people, no longer divided into outcasts and tribes, but united in purpose. She felt the energy building, saw the ancient human machines coming to life, and knew that whatever happened next, their world would never be the same. 3, 2, 1. Activate. The sky itself seemed to light up as 7 beams of energy shot from the activation points, converging high in the atmosphere. The ground stabilized as dormant systems roared back to life. In orbit, ancient satellites began their reactivation sequences, restoring the delicate balance that made their world habitable. But more importantly, Marina saw something else happening, something the humans might have predicted but could never have guaranteed. She saw her people coming together, sharing knowledge, breaking down barriers that had stood for generations. The grid was reactivating. A new dawn. 3 months after the great reactivation, Marina stood atop the highest spire of the ancestral city, watching the sun rise over a transformed world. The sacred crystals, now properly maintained and understood, pulsed with steady energy that stabilized their planet's core. Below, the once rigid boundaries between tribal territories had given way to networks of cooperation and shared knowledge. Commander Wright joined her on the observation platform, his augmented eyes taking in the changes their joint efforts had wrought. "Your people have exceeded every prediction in our original project files," he said, genuine pride in his voice. "Do you know how long it took humanity to achieve this level of technological integration? Centuries. You've done it in months." Marina smiled, her silver scales shimming in the morning light. "We had good teachers. Both you and our ancestors, through the genetic memories." The platform hummed as another figure joined them, Elder Croft, now wearing a seamless blend of traditional robes and modern technology. The old leader had surprised everyone with his dedication to learning once his initial resistance crumbled. "The first graduating class of the new academy is ready," he announced. His voice carried the same authority as always, but now it was tempered with wisdom rather than fear. 300 students, all showing varying degrees of genetic memory activation. "It seems that once we stopped suppressing the memories, more of our people began accessing them naturally." Wright nodded, unsurprised. The genetic modifications were designed to activate in response to exposure to advanced technology. The more your people embrace their heritage, the more accessible the embedded knowledge becomes. Below them, the city was coming alive with morning activity. The marketplace that once traded only in traditional goods now buzzed with both ancient crafts and new innovations. Young Cytherians wore clothing that integrated human technology with tribal designs, creating something entirely new, neither purely human nor traditionally Cytherian. "The council has finished deliberating on your proposal," Croft said to Wright. "We've agreed to re-establish contact with Earth, when you're ready to send the signal. But we want to approach as equals, not as a lost colony to be reclaimed. That was always the intention, Wright replied. Why do you think we left you to develop independently, with just enough encoded knowledge to guide you when needed? Earth's mistake with many colonies was trying to control their development. With your world, we tried something different, we gave you the tools to forge your own path. Marina's attention was drawn to movement in the valley below. A caravan of vehicles, combining traditional animal mounts with anti-gravity technology, was arriving from one of the outer settlements. Each week brought more people seeking knowledge, seeking to understand their true heritage. There are still those who resist, she noted, watching a group of traditionally dressed Zetharians keeping their distance from the new developments. Some believe we're losing our identity by embracing this knowledge. Are you? Wright asked, genuinely curious. Look around you. I see a people who have taken humanity's legacy and made it uniquely their own. Your architects aren't just replicating our designs, they're improving them, incorporating your cultural aesthetics. Your scientists aren't just learning our theories, they're developing new ones based on your unique perspective. Croth gestured to the newly constructed research center, where the crystal technology that had once been purely ceremonial was being studied and enhanced. We're not losing our identity, he said firmly. We're fulfilling it. Our ancestors knew we would face this challenge one day, that's why they left us both the memories and the choice of when to use them. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Marina activated her neural interface, another human technology that Zetharians had adapted and improved, to receive the message. The first deep space probe is ready for launch, she announced. Torin and his team have finished the modifications. It will carry both our traditional messages and data packets about our development. Humanity's first contact with your people was as teachers, Wright mused. Perhaps your first contact with other civilizations will be the same, sharing the unique combination of knowledge you've created. The sun climbed higher, its light catching the crystalline spires and creating rainbow refractions across the city. Marina remembered standing before the council just months ago, facing exile for daring to speak the truth about her dreams. Now, those same dreams were helping to forge a future no one could have imagined. Commander, she said, turning to Wright, what happens now? Will more humans come? Wright smiled. That's up to your people to decide. The facility's database contains coordinates for other colonies, other experiments like this one. You could reach out, establish contact, create a network of cultures that blend human innovation with their own unique developments. Or you could focus inward, perfect your world, become something entirely new. Why not both? Croth suggested, surprising them both. Our strength comes from understanding both where we came from and who we choose to become. The humans gave us knowledge, but what we build with it, that's our choice. As if to emphasize his words, a massive holographic display activated above the city center, showing real-time data from the restored terraforming grid. But unlike before, the display was rendered in the artistic style of traditional Zetharian cave paintings, telling their story in a way that honored both past and future. Look there, Marina said softly, pointing to where a group of children played near the base of a crystal spire. Some wore traditional clothing, others modern synthetics, but all of them were using small devices to scan and study the crystal structure, their natural curiosity unopposed by artificial boundaries. That's our real legacy, not just the knowledge we've gained, but the freedom to keep questioning, keep learning, keep growing. Wright touched a control on his wrist, and the observation platform began to descend toward the city below. Then I think my work here is done, he said. Project Genesis was never about creating a perfect copy of human civilization. It was about giving you the tools to create something better. As they reached the ground, Marina saw her brother Kale approaching with a group of newly arrived seekers from distant tribes. The hunger for knowledge had spread far beyond their original boundaries, touching communities they had never even known existed. No, she said, watching the newcomers' faces light up with wonder as they took in the transformed city. Your work isn't done, Commander. It's just beginning. We still have so much to learn, and now, perhaps, something to teach as well. The morning sun reached its full height, casting no shadows as it illuminated a world where ancient wisdom and future promise had finally found their balance. The human experiment was complete, but the Zetharian journey was just beginning. And somewhere, in the vast depths of space, other worlds waited to learn what this unique civilization would become.